Good evening. Welcome back to our second segment. We have the pleasure and honor also to invite our candidate for City Council, Jeff Ross. And so please join us in welcoming Jeff, and we'll go directly into the show. So now, Jeff, talk about you. Who are you and why are you running for Boston City Council at large?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here, Mary. I came to Boston 19 years ago with a small bag of belongings and a pair of jeans. My mom was a waitress and my dad a laborer, and I was the first in my family to graduate from college. And there were times when my mom worked for minimum wage and we couldn't afford to buy heating oil, so we heated our apartment with the oven. And one of the things that my mom taught me is it doesn't matter how much property you have or how many cars you have parked in your driveway. What matters is what you do to help people when you go outside of your door to make the community a better place for everybody. So I'm running to work on issues that affect the families of the city of Boston. My campaign is about uplifting impoverished families in the city because we have 120,000 residents that live below the poverty level, and I have a variety of ideas that I'd like to speak with you about tonight on those issues.
But you're a lawyer as well, right?
I am a lawyer. I work with immigrant communities. I'm an immigration attorney, and I work with kids that are unaccompanied and have no parents and help them get into the custody of a family member or to state custody. And then one of the things that we do is get them evaluated for early childhood trauma and violence, English as a second language, or learning disabilities. And one of the things that we realize is that when the children start getting the services they need, they start improving in school, and suddenly they're not the child in the back of the classroom that's being distracting. And so the important part of that is that they start believing that they can succeed. And so I will fight when I get elected to the Boston City Council to make sure that we implement a program in the city that evaluates all of our children for these issues early on.
Okay, so then might as well talk about some top priorities that you once you get elected. You already mentioned fighting for children in poverty and all. What are other issues?
We need to look at our next administration at the mayoral level and the city council level, and we need to work to create middle income jobs because I've met so many families across the city that are working in janitorial positions and others who have the privilege to be working in the finance industry or in high-tech jobs. But we have to look at the long term in the next 20 years in the city of Boston and make sure that we are creating middle income jobs. If we don't do that, we'll have a very socioeconomically divided society, and I don't think we want to. Anybody in the city of Boston wants to live in a city that is divided. So one of my proposals is that we take the reserve deposits from the city and invest them in banks that are headquartered or doing business in the city of Boston and create lending programs for small businesses, women, immigrant, and people of color-owned businesses. Because I think that there's a large opportunity to create jobs. Women business entrepreneurship is one of the fastest growing sectors of the American economy, and I think that there's more work to do in the city of Boston. So these loans would be guaranteed by collateral or deposit insurance, and I think that we can create opportunities for small businesses to expand and create more jobs here in the city of Boston. And we'll also create middle income jobs and opportunities for families you know, to have some free enterprise here in the city. I think that's really important as we look at the next, term, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running for city council, because we hear so much about jobs for Boston residents, and I think that we need to look at ways to grow and improve our economic infrastructure. So I'm running to work on the education issues for children. I mean, more families that are affected by children lagging in school are immigrant children, because a lot of them don't have parents that speak English, and so they're not able to provide the help and services they need. So our campaign is about jobs, economic development, and then safe communities. And so,
these are the key issues. Let me remind our viewers that they can always call in at 617-708-3290. Again, 617-708-3290. Thank you. So now, Jeff, how does the Bostonian see you apart from the other candidates?
Well, I just want to give a little plug, since you're talking about call-ins, that I'm Jeff Ross. I'm number 8 on the ballot in November. And so I think that we need to look at the diversity of the city of Boston. I've been working for the last 10 years with New Bostonians around events to celebrate and uplift our immigrant heritage in the city. We all share that. It's a common value that we all have, and we need to celebrate the diversity in the city. So one of the things that I've done is worked with an organization, New Bostonians, to help raise money for English as a second language. And the program generates about $700,000 a year, which goes back into local communities where we create opportunities for families to learn English. My mom worked in the food industry as a waitress, and so too many times when I'm in restaurants across the city of Boston, you look in the kitchen and the folks that are working there come from immigrant communities, whether it's the Vietnamese community or the Haitian Creole community or the Latino community, and we need to create opportunities for those folks because so many of them are underemployed because of the lack of the language capacity, and they could be making more money and providing a more stable foundation for the families that they're raising in the city of Boston. And that's really important to me personally, and I think that it will help uplift our impoverished families in the city of Boston.
So now if you have to tell the new elected mayor the one or two top issues that you're so passionate about, would it be the same issue that you just mentioned? Tell us
I think it would be the same issue that I just mentioned. I think that I want our next mayor to give equal attention and equal opportunity to every neighborhood in the city of Boston. I think that we need to really look at English language programs in the Boston public schools because we are a majority people of color city and we have a very large immigrant population. And the great thing about that is that if you look at the keys for a successful city and you compare Boston to Detroit, for example, things that make a city successful are people feeling safe in their homes, jobs and economic opportunity so that the families who grow up here and the children who are born in this city have opportunity, but also retaining the talent. We have great institutions and universities here. People come from all over the world, so we need to look at ways to retain that talent here. And then I think that we look at transportation and infrastructure, but cultural diversity creates a vibrancy around the city. And that's the type of vibrancy that also makes people want to live in a place. And so Boston has a lot of that to offer to folks. And we need to celebrate it and embrace it and continue to create opportunities for folks.
So let's change the topic a little bit about you're the first openly gay candidate that's running for your seat. So
Yes.
Why do you think that's important to let people know?
I think that it's part of my identity. People talk about the gay and lesbian, transgendered community and bisexual community in terms of sexuality, but I think that it's important for people to know that it is an identity and not an objectification. I haven't actually said that on the campaign trail, but I do talk about it because I think that the LGBT community is an important part of the diversity of the city of Boston. And when I'm in places at the far edges of the city, I think that it's breaking down barriers for people to get to know me and the things that I've done in my career as an immigration attorney, the families that I've helped, and the things that I've been involved in, with New Bostonians and raising money for English as a second language and being active on the Democratic State Committee and local ward committee. I've been secretary of that and on the boards of places like Oiste and the Stonewall Democrats. And I think that it's important for people to realize that, we are an educated community. We're people who care about every neighborhood of the city of Boston. My campaign and the LGBT part of it has really been about breaking down barriers. I have a family. I have 2 children that are biracial. They're Asian, and that family unit was a biracial, socioeconomically different social group that I'm a part of. And so I had to, our family unit has had to work to build bridges across those lines, and that's given me skills and the passion and the desire to continue that work outside of the home when I'm in communities and, when I'm in the, Vietnamese community. I think that it's important to raise awareness about the issues affecting the Latino community, and when I'm in the Haitian Creole community, to raise awareness about issues that are happening in the Chinese community. And we all share, common values in this city, and we all want the same things for our children. And
That's
so
right. So
it doesn't matter what your identity
Right,
is
right.
or what your race is. And so
Yes.
I think that's the most important part of that component to our campaign and
Right.
to me as a person.
Yes, yes, and I totally agree. It's not about your sexual orientation, but it's about
Sure.
what you can do for people.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the Boston public school system.
Sure.
So you know the students can speak 80 languages or more. And then they've been struggling to get the education and be prepared for entering into the workforce. So
Sure.
what can you do, to help these folks?
Yep.
What
I
are
think
your
the
thoughts?
English language part is a
Yeah.
huge part of it.
Right.
I think that, like you said, we have 80 languages spoken in the Boston public schools. One of the things that you see when people talk about the quality of schools that we overlook is that no matter where a child is going to school in the city of Boston, if their parents are integrally involved in their education process with them, kids do well wherever they go. So I wouldn't say that it's a failure of the Boston public school system per se. Sure, there are a lot of things that we have that we can work on to improve. I think access to school pre-K seats, I'd like to see. We have 4,000 now, and I'd like to see every child in the city of Boston have access to pre-K seats and a warm meal when they start their days. I think that's a great way for a child to become acculturated to school in a way that helps the socialization process along. I'd also like to see longer days so that we can create programs where kids can be involved in arts and music, wood shop. We moved around a lot. My mom worked for minimum wage, like I mentioned earlier, and so there were times that we had to move because we couldn't afford to stay in neighborhoods and places. And one of the ways that I reconnected with other children in new communities was through the extracurricular programs in arts and music and, wood shop, for example. So I think that those are, important
Yes.
opportunities for children.
Right.
So I think that there are a lot of ideas out there. I would like to see the MCAS changed so that there are more creative components to it, and I've been talking about that the entire summer on the campaign trail. What I have seen recently is the state has come out with a plan where they would keep the MCAS as part of the testing, but implement more of a creative writing part that I think helps stimulate the creativity that children naturally have. So we have to look at the implementation of that in the public school system now, because we're talking about implementing it in 10th grade and children have been preparing for a certain style of testing, and I think that we need to look at where we implement that, but I think that it would be a great change to the public school curriculum.
So you mentioned that you live in South End, and we're kind of curious. What's your connection to Dorchester?
Well, I was taken in one winter after I moved. The place that I was staying didn't have heat, and a family in Dorchester took me in, so I lived on Gibson Street for 4 months.
Yes, I know where that is.
And I really loved the neighbors and the family that took me in, and Dorchester is a special place for me. And I really, what I like about Dorchester the most is the diversity of Dorchester, because you have, Irish restaurants, you have Vietnamese restaurants, you have, Indian, you name it.
You name it, right.
It is, there are lots of great culinary experiences to be had.
Yeah.
And so I really like the diversity of Dorchester.
So then what would you do to promote Dorchester as a place for business or a place for cultural destination? What would you do?
I talk about it every time I'm there, and or if there's an event that comes up in Dorchester, I try to make sure that we tweet about it. I'm Jeff Ross Boston on Twitter if you want to follow us. But I think that what we could do is support small businesses in Dorchester and help them grow. There are a lot of successful businesses there, and I think that some of them are starting to outgrow their space. I've been to some of the Vietnamese restaurants in Fields Corner, and you have to wait to get a table. And if we could create easier access to capital for some of these businesses, I think that we could help them grow and prosper and create more jobs in the Vietnamese community. I think we have a lot of great leaders. You are one of them.
Thank you. That's kind of you.
And so my best ideas come from the community.
Yes.
Our campaign is about organizing and about community involvement and getting more folks to participate in civic life in the city of Boston. So my best ideas will come from you and other residents in Dorchester. But some of the ideas I have are about helping small businesses grow. We need to look at creating housing for our senior citizens and family housing that is affordable here in the city, where we can keep the family unit together, because I know how important that is.
Right.
It's important to my family, it's important to immigrant communities. I think that's something that we all share.
What about health? I mean,
Health.
Health is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Health
Also very
disparities? Yeah.
Yeah, health disparities.
Health disparities.
Yeah.
Well, what we
Okay.
see, I think that I would like to see, and we just had a forum last night on public parks, and I think that we
Wow.
need to make sure that we're creating open spaces and places along the Fairmont line for families and children to gather and to exercise. I would like to see development partnered with areas where there are transportation infrastructure improvements that can be made, because we need to make sure that we have markets that are walkable and affordable,
Right.
or close to public transportation for every neighborhood in the city of Boston. And as we've seen in parts of the city, such as Mattapan, that's just not true. So healthy, affordable food, it's part
yes.
of our campaign. We've been talking about it out there.
Yeah.
I'm a member of my own community garden.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that the Haley House has a great project where they have kids come participate in the community gardening, and I'd like to see more of that in Dorchester. Because I think that kids get an opportunity to learn how to grow food. It also teaches them about healthy food. And we need to make sure that the kids of our city have access to healthy food, and that they're learning about how to make the right choices. Because too often in communities of color, we see children with the highest incidence of diabetes and obesity. And so those are issues that I think that we need to address.
So let's talk about how you can serve diverse constituents once you get
Yes.
elected. How
I
can you help them?
Well,
Would you have the
speak.
staff?
I speak 3 languages.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, what are they?
4, including English. But
Wonderful.
I speak French, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Wow, that's
And,
impressive.
Thank you, thank you. Well, you speak
French,
many
Spanish,
yourself.
and Portuguese.
French, Spanish, and Portuguese. I would
Wow.
love to learn Vietnamese or Chinese, but I just speak 1 or 2 words
But
of
you already
Chinese.
speak 4 languages, so that's amazing. You definitely can reach out to these particular 4 communities without any problem as
Sure.
compared to me. So anyhow.
Yeah, but we
Okay.
would want to have language capacity
Right.
in our office to serve every community in the city of Boston.
Yeah.
So, that's very important to me, and I understand the cultural and linguistic barriers because I'm somebody who has been bridging them across the city.
Yes.
So it's
See
something
that.
that I would work very hard on to make sure that our office reflects the diversity of the city and that we create better access to government for
Yes.
everybody here in the city of Boston.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell us, why should we vote for you? Everyone, why should we vote for you?
You should vote for me because my campaign is about the impoverished families of the city of Boston.
Yeah.
I have had to work to bridge differences in my own family, and I've made it my life's work. I volunteered for my first autistic class when I was in 3rd grade, and I've been involved in civic life in the city of Boston since I came here.
Yeah.
And it's my life's work really to work on creating equality and access to opportunity. I've been for many years talking on some of the Spanish television stations about creating access to emergency services and the different languages that we have in the city of Boston so that our emergency responder forces reflect the diversity of the city and reflect the language capacity
important, yeah.
that we have in the city. Because imagine a child or an elderly person who has a difficult emergency and cannot communicate. So we need to make sure that everybody here has the same opportunity and access to health and emergency services. And I think that's part of addressing the disparities that we have here in the city when you talk about public health.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
I would also like to see the full implementation of the public health curriculum and sex education for folks culturally competent and
Support.
make sure that STI infection rates are increasing in our teens. Drug addiction and abuse starts there, so we need to address those issues early on in the Boston public school system.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
No, that is fantastic. I mean, all the issues that you raise are, something that all immigrant community here, especially the newcomer, would love to get help
Sure.
and be supported.
So that's why people
So-
should vote for me. November
Yes.
5th, I'm number 8 on the ballot. I hope that,
Fantastic. Okay, great. So we have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Tell me, in terms of leadership quality that you have, just talk about you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, leadership qualities.
leadership quality that,
Okay.
that you have, and an example of how have you been able to overcome or help someone.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, let's leadership qualities. I can talk about
Yeah.
2012. I was elected to the Democratic State Committee. It's
Yeah.
an unpaid position, but you have to run for the public office just
Right.
the same way you would for any other elected position.
Right.
And I won with over 90% of the vote, and I represent 180,000 people in the
Wow.
city on that, along with Sarah Ann Shaw. And so I have experience
Yeah.
in that role over the last 12, 14 months, working to bring folks in the neighborhood together. We planned a meeting where we got 14 different organizations to agree on a date, time, and place. It took 3 months, and getting people there took 2 weeks.
I could see that.
But it's
Challenging.
that kind of consensus building that I think is so important, because what happened was we brought folks from different neighborhoods together and had them hear from each other. And what we realized is that we all shared common concerns around public safety, the quality of education, pipelines, and access to opportunities. And so I have the capacity to do that. I've been doing it, and I think that that is similar to the role that you have as a city councilor, although you have budgetary issues and other things that you work on. At the level of the economic health of the city, but there is a lot of consensus building, and I think that that's a skill that you need. I think that our council should reflect the diversity of our city, and I bring a different perspective to that. And when I get elected, I will work to bring consensus to the council.
That's great.
And work with my colleagues up there. So
Yeah, no, that's great. So, have you been supported or endorsed by other well-known people?
sure, Jeff Sanchez, Gloria
Oh, okay.
Fox,
Yeah.
Representative Jeff Sanchez, and
Wonderful.
Gloria Fox, Liz Malia, Tito Jackson, and multiple Democratic ward committees across the city,
great.
Planned Parenthood, Local 6, which is the heat fitters and pipe fitters, are supporting my campaign. And I could continue on a litany of other folks, but I'm very proud and honored to have their support. What it means
Yeah.
and shows is that our campaign and the type of people who want to support us reflect the diversity of the city. And that's important to me, and I'm really proud that we've built such a broad constituency.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic to hear. So, what have been challenging for you as you run, since it's your first time?
It's my first time running citywide.
Right.
What's challenging is that there are so many different neighborhoods, and that the city, although it is a small city compared to other cities, really has a vast amount of organizations and groups. And it's telling, and I think that it is I think it's important to the city, because there are so many active groups, but there's a lot of territory to cover in a short period of time. But I have the energy, the stamina, and I'm excited about being out there every day. So I think that that is something that I've found new. I wish that I could speak the 80 languages, because
You've been
we
gone
would
and you
reach
speak
out
that
so
many.
many more communities.
Yeah.
But,
Wait, but you used to work for the former congressman or someone?
U.S. Senator.
Oh, yes, exactly,
Yeah. I
yes.
mean, I worked on a campaign for the United States Senate in California, and I went to Washington, D.C. for a year with Dianne Feinstein,
Okay.
and I was
Yeah.
going to college, right, in South Central Los Angeles at the time, and she was working on gun control. She became mayor of San Francisco when Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone were shot. And so a big issue was gun control and the assault weapons ban. So I was a student at University of Southern California in South Central Los Angeles at the time. So I was able to share my experiences and the harm that my friends had experienced, and the gang violence and the shootings with other senators from New England, and help get that gun control measure passed. And so, yeah, that was a great experience, and you really learn about how the things that you can do impact people's lives. On a local level.
So you already have a history of helping people, and living in different places and understanding the issues facing people, especially the immigrant community. So now, what would you do if, say, people come to you and said, I need to find a job.
Sure.
And so what would you do?
Yeah, that's
the
a great.
resources that you know or contact that you have.
Right.
Could you
No,
really
and
help?
I mean, that's happened over the summer on the campaign trail as I've been out there. And fortunately, when you're at so many different places across the city, one of the places I was at was Jamaica Plain. They had a community health fair.
Yeah.
And part of what they were doing was, recruiting for jobs at Boston Children's Hospital. And I have a very good friend who was out of work this summer and looking for something. So I was able to, pass that information along and just I think that what it is about connecting people, and I'm the connecting type of person. I
That's
love
great.
to help people and put people in touch with each other, and so that's I think that it's about creating pipelines of opportunity and making those connections and just being responsive and following up when you meet people who have a particular need.
Okay,
So.
1 minute to wrap up.
All right.
Why should we vote for you? Repeat again.
Vote for me on November 5th. I'm number 8 on the ballot. I'm here to ask for your vote and hope that you will give my candidacy strong consideration. I love every neighborhood in the city as much as I love my own neighborhood. I come from a biracial family, a socioeconomically different family, and that we've had to work within that family to bridge the differences. Mary knows the mother of my children and has for a long time. And what that has given me is the experience and the passion and the desire to go out and do that. My campaign is about uplifting impoverished families in the city of Boston. And part of the way we do that is break down barriers. We need to make our city a more inclusive and compassionate place for everybody. And I have my own differences. I'm running as the first openly gay city councilor citywide, if I get elected, to be the first one ever in history to sit on the Boston City Council. I'm not running for that reason, but it's not lost on me that the barriers and the challenges that I've had to overcome as an openly gay man face a lot of the folks in the Vietnamese community and other immigrant communities. And so I share that same experience, and I understand how we have to get people over the hurdles and create opportunities to jobs, housing, safety, business development, and stabilize families and make sure that we are all in this together. All boats rise together.
Right. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, for any comments or questions that you have, especially from tonight's program, you can call in at 617-822-3717, or you can email VATV@vid8.org, or you can go into our website, which is www.vid8.org. And we thank you for paying attention to our special two guests tonight, and we hope that you've been informed, and we'll see you at next week's VATV show. Thank you, and have a good evening.